I got to tell you, it is so cool to have the actual drum roll, please. If you've been listening for a while, come on, drum roll, honey badger. And so I love it because, there's so many cool things with the loan officer leadership community that we have. And at the Loan Officer Breakfast Club. And by the way, if you're not attending every morning, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 9 a.m., go to loanofficerbreakfastclub.com, join it. It's the coolest community of anywhere, I don't know, 600, 700, bunch of loan officers every morning jump on a Zoom call. And we get the privilege of having Allison Johnston jump on it. Like, we try to get her on as much as possible, but it ends up being, I don't know, every couple of weeks. And it's, I was thinking about, we were talking and I said, man, I got to have you on the podcast because Allison is the president of Success Mortgage Partners. And as you've been listening to the podcast, you know that that's where the network that I get the privilege of leading, we're powered by Success Mortgage Partners. And so she is the operational engine behind what we do. And we get a chance to talk to her. We bring her into the Breakfast Club and she's sharing all of these different things. And so, Allison, I thought we would title this, I Bet You Didn't Know. And because you, like, on the Breakfast Club on Wednesday, you were talking about some really cool things. Here's a stat that is just astounding. 82, and make sure I'm right. Is it 82? It's 82%. You're turning 82% of no's or turndowns into yeses.
Correct.
That's a remarkable number. And here's why I thought we would have Allison on. Because you're listening, you're a part of a group, and you may even have an Allison, or you're wanting to build a culture so that you can put somebody over the operations that can help you nurture a culture. Because what we have found out is culture is a current. You're either pushing against it or you're riding with it. And I thought this, I want Allison to come on. We're going to talk about some of the things she's doing here at Success Mortgage Partners and a part of the network that I get a privilege of leading. And man, I just thought, let's talk about two things. I want to talk about culture, number one. And then I want you to talk about a couple of things that you've done that's helped turn the no's into yeses. Because as you're listening today, you may have had a loan turned down. And like, you were giving some nuggets of, hey, when you call the agencies direct, you had some really good nuggets that might help people overturn what would otherwise be a no-go into a yes, save deals, win relationships, make more money. Allison, great to have you. My
Thank
dear
you
friend.
to be here. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, so look, tell us a little bit. So first off, how'd you get in the business? Just a quick, I don't know, 90 seconds. Like, how long you been in the business? How'd you get into operations? Like, give us a quick backstory.
I started in 1992, so I'd love to say I was in the kindergarten co-op program, but that's not true. I've actually been in the business like 33, 34 years. And
Kindergarten co-op program.
kindergarten co-op program. And I was going to college, graduated high school, going to college. And my mom's like, you got to get an office job.
Yeah,
And I got a job at a mortgage company. So
there you
that's
go.
where it started. And, went to school for business and stayed in the mortgage industry and love it. I mean, once you
Yeah,
get in, you're in.
you're hooked.
You're hooked. Yeah,
Hey,
definitely a lifer.
and so Lee, even right now, so everybody knows, she runs the operations. And when I'm talking about operations, it's the engine that gives your sales team the confidence to go sell. And
Mhm.
so you've been at the forefront, really building a remarkable culture of yes, we get it done. And I want to talk about that a little bit. What is it like in culture? Because you know what I've experienced, Allison, a lot of times, and I've experienced in the past before I was here, it's like you're almost just pushing against it. It's like, please look at my files. Please don't decline them. Please
Yeah.
don't put it in suspense land. So somebody who's wanting to build a culture operationally, what are some of the things you're thinking about? Like, give us your perspective on culture.
So one of the things we never want is back and forth between sales and operations. We want open
Yeah.
communication. So one of the things we put in place many, many years ago is when an underwriter has a question on a file, they
Yeah.
pick up the phone and call the loan officer or the loan partner, right? Who's ever designated to help through the file. Let's talk about it. I'm never going to suspend a loan. I'm not going to throw a bunch of question conditions on there. Just tell us a story, right? That has helped because every time an underwriter gets done with underwriting a file, they've sent out the conditional approval, they make a call to the loan officer or the loan partner. Hey, I just underwrote the file. And usually in this case, it's the loan partner. Do you have any questions about the conditions? Anything you
Mm,
want to go over? I'm still in the file. So then
yeah,
there's no inconsistency between the two, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
number one. The other thing as far as culture is we never go back and forth on email more than twice. We always pick up the phone because a lot can get lost in email. A lot of it can get lost. In fact, I don't even think there was email when I started in the business, but that's a whole nother story. But you never want to put feel good conditions on there. And our motto is always looking for the yes. We
Mm,
go into that file looking for the yes, not looking for a way not to do the file. And when I interview people to come into the ops world, I have some very talented people that I interviewed, but they don't talk to loan officers, depending on what
yeah.
company they are. There's all this red tape where they can't ever get to the underwriter. And I don't
Mm,
know how they possibly run an efficient ops team without that communication. We never deliver bad news over an email. We always
mm,
called to talk it out, whether it's an appraisal issue or something that came back on the written verification. We're always going to pick up the phone and have that conversation. And as talented as some ops people are, if they can't pick up the phone and have a conversation with a loan officer, they're just not a good fit for us.
yeah. Well, at everything you just said, like how many times in our career have we seen the 22 email chain? And
Right,
you're like,
right.
somebody just
Pick
pick
up the
up the
phone.
phone. That's it. Like a 2-minute phone call would have kept from everybody getting aggravated and somebody dropped in all caps and now they think they're hollering at them. And you're like, oh no, this is
And a smiley face at the end does not make it not sassy. That's the other thing. Like you can't throw a smiley face on the end and think that it takes away the context.
the,
Um, but you can resolve it in like two
yeah, yeah,
seconds. Pick up the phone.
yeah,
So that's what our motto has been. Those are what our service level agreements are. And everybody that
yeah,
we interview, we tell them that. You have to
yeah.
be able to pick up the phone.
Yeah. Hey, well, and somebody who's looking for an operations person, like how do they identify the right people? How do you know you're hiring the right people and not making poor choices in the ones that you're bringing in? What's some of the things you're doing to identify them quicker?
So one of the things that we do besides a disc assessment, because we want
Yeah.
to know a little bit how that person learns and how they like to be communicated to, is we always build a bench. And this is important to always
Mm,
have a bench of people. And we tell
mm,
them it's a bench, right? Hey, I might not have an underwriting position right now, but I'm probably going to be in the next couple months. Because we find if we have time on the front end to
yeah.
really go through the interview process and we're not pressed to make a decision really quick, we're going to make a better decision, right? We're going to
Yeah.
take our time. We're going to do an initial underwrite or, a meeting with the underwriter, have them do a redacted file. We
Yeah.
want them to go through how that they would underwrite a file, right? We want to know how they're going to communicate. And then I'll step out of the interview. We'll have another interview and it will be with an underwriter and maybe a team lead because we want to see how they're going to interact with the team as well. So we do spend a lot of time on the front end trying to hire the right person.
Yeah.
Um, because if you don't, it's just a bad experience for everybody.
Yeah, well, hey, what a great idea, giving them something to actually work through to
Mhm.
ensure what they've said they're capable and competent of. You can double check the work. And I love the multiple interactions too, because they're going to talk to you differently than they would maybe what they see as a potential peer
Correct.
or a direct supervisor as far as a team lead. That's super, super smart. The Hey, and what are one of the things I thought about this, you've really built a remarkable culture of yes in an industry where the first response is no. It's like I always think the knee jerk for this industry is no, we can't, well, we can't do that here. And I love you said feel good conditions. I hate feel good conditions.
Yeah,
Like
window dressing. They're like
I'm
window
like,
dressing.
I didn't ask if you felt good. I'm like, can you approve this loan, please? Hey, so talk about that. How have you built a culture of yes? What is it that's really helped you in identifying, hey, there's because Allison, there's a lot of opportunity. 82% of no's turning into yeses. The reality is that's a lot of money.
Yeah. It is. And it's not that one loan, it's all the other loans that come from it for the loan
From
officer
the
with
agent,
that,
yeah, for the
right?
save a
From
deal
the
and
realtor and the
mm,
at-bats that they're gonna get. So we have an ops meeting every single month. Every ops person hops on it. We go over our values, our standards, and looking for the yes every single time, picking up the phone. We go through that every single month. So all the new people know, right? And it's a
mhm,
nice reminder.
yeah.
But that's really been our motto. So when we have this committee meeting that we have every day with the underwriting underwriting team leads and they bring a file, it's how do you make that file work? How can it work?
Mm,
Is
mm.
it getting this additional piece of documentation? Is it this other piece that we can make it work? Is it calling the agencies, which we've talked about? And we do call the agencies because sometimes the guidelines aren't clear and you have a good
Yeah,
file. And
yeah.
sometimes it's hard on the guidelines and you're trying to make it work. And it's picking up the phone and calling FHA and not giving the case number. But
Hey,
picking
hold
up
on,
the
hold on.
phone.
I mean, we're going to get to that one because that's a great hack. So go ahead, keep
But,
going.
calling the agencies, and I think one of the most important things that we do is we have the loan officer on the call too, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
all want to be on the same page. We're all one collective team trying to get this deal to work. The loan officer is going to hear how we ask the questions. They can chime in. The underwriter's going to hear. The team lead's going to hear. Because the loan officer might have some other information that maybe is not in the file that we don't have. How
yeah.
do we get it to work? So we always have the loan officer or the loan partner, whoever for that office, on the team, on the call from the team so that we can have the same common goal to get the loan to
Yeah.
the finish line.
Well, and you know what I love? There. I think about culture a lot like this, Allison. It's a life stance, and the stance is from a place of yes, as opposed to no, now prove it to me. And I think that's the flip that has to happen in operations is, you've got loan officers are literally blood, sweating, and tearing these phone calls and these relationships. And man, it really takes a lot to build relationships where they trust you enough to bring in a loan. And what I really appreciate about you and the team that you lead and it runs through the organization is your true, genuine care and concern. And you and I think about Chris and so many of the team members that it's like we understand what the loan officer's doing. We understand how hard
100%.
it is. And if we could just go a little bit further and do not just our part, but it's like you go the extra mile. I mean, you were telling me there was one file, what y'all had like 15 or 16 calls into the
18.
18 calls
Yeah,
to the
and they actually
agency.
put it in the email when the condo project finally got approved with FHA, and they're like, you're approved after your 18th request. And we were following up twice a day, right? It's a
Mm,
purchase transaction.
mm,
We're trying to get it
yeah,
to the finish line. And honestly, the squeaky wheel does get, the results quicker, and we
yeah.
wanted to make sure we stayed on it. So, the loan officer and the agent and everybody knew we're going to call twice a day to try to push that through the finish line. But they actually put that in writing to us. They're like, yes, you did 18 requests. Correct. We did.
Well,
But
I'm
guess
sorry.
what?
Don't
We
be
got it
so
approved.
tenacious to get it closed or not.
Yes. Yep.
Hey, and here's what I thought we would do. Okay, do you have anything else you would share, like in building culture where it helps support and serve the operations of the organization? Any other thoughts on that specifically?
The only thing that I would say is make sure you're hiring the right people in operations,
Mm.
right?
Hey, and
Take
you know
your
what? And
time.
letting
And
go of them fast.
yeah, if they don't work out, that's okay, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And do your due diligence, right? So if you're finding that they can't talk to a loan officer, they're not picking up their phone, or they're not answering their emails timely, they're just not a good fit for your organization. Like for our organization, we're a metric driven company and we're very upfront in the interviews. And we've had a couple people we've interviewed, they're like, yeah, I don't want to be metric based. I don't want to have to pick up the phone. Then that's great. We just weeded that out and that's not a good fit for either of us. But I would also not bend on how your culture is. This
mm,
is who we are. We come every single day. We want to be exceptional every single day. I
yeah,
even have it on my phone. I'm not here to be average. I'm here to be exceptional. So that's what we want from our team. I don't want
yeah,
to be
yeah,
average.
yeah.
I want
And
to find every single day a way to be better tomorrow than I was today.
mm, mm. Hey, and that I love it. And that's where it's easy to bend based on the personality that's sit in front of you instead of to say, this is who we are. You know what it is? I think there's this innate desire to want to have people want to be a part of what we're doing. And you know what's amazing is the more clear you are on who you are, how we operate, what our values are, what we believe, what our standards are, you're going to attract the right people, you're going to repel the wrong. And we just
That's
want to do
right.
it faster. So,
That's
hey,
right.
okay. So I bet you didn't know. Tell me some since okay, now here's the one that's really cool because I love this on Breakfast Club where you were talking about when you call the agencies, what's a little hack?
Don't give them the case number on an FHA because they'll
Well,
flag the
so many
file.
people
But
do. It's like,
yeah,
hey,
don't.
they'll
You
ask
just say
for
it's
the
a scenario. Listen, here's the deal. I do think it matters how you ask the question, right?
okay,
And not disrespecting the agencies by any means. But sometimes you'll get somebody on the phone that really doesn't want to take your phone call and they'll give you an no. And you know there's a way to make the deal work, right? So don't give the case number because they'll track it. And we might call back 20 minutes later and hope to talk to somebody else that's willing to go through the guidelines, listen to our scenarios. And there are some great people that work at the agencies, but sometimes if we get an answer where it's a quick no,
yeah,
they really weren't helping us with what we have. So we'll wait and then call back. And
yeah,
that does help sometimes. Or sometimes they'll send us the guidelines and we'll be like, can we please get a call? We want to talk it out. But don't give the case number because we did this one time years and years ago. And they're like, yeah, you already called. And the answer was no, because they don't want to conflict with their answers either. So no
sure.
case numbers. Don't give the DU case number on the findings. Just say, I have a scenario I want to walk through.
That is
And
super
then
smart
and
because
then we'll
I,
document the file accordingly.
yeah, I've had that when I was years ago. That's what they would do is I just was like, here's my case number. And then it's like, but that wasn't the answer that I knew we should have got, but now you're stuck. So super smart. Hey, okay. You talked about something on the appraisal. I bet you didn't know that you can get another appraisal on an FHA loan.
You can only if there's material defects in the appraisal.
Yeah, I thought that was
Right.
great because you
So,
you hear all the
right.
time, there's
And
no way
that's
you
in the
can.
guidelines, right? You
Okay.
can't go against the guidelines, but that's in
Yeah.
the guidelines. So a lot of people think the FHA case number, it's tied to the appraisal when they log it. That is absolutely the truth. But if it's not a great appraisal and there are misrepresentations, material defects, and I don't mean fraud or anything like that, but maybe there's a comp that could have been used, right?
Mm, maybe
And
closer, better,
yes,
similar.
and you just have to document accordingly, and that is acceptable in the guidelines.
I love it. Okay, here we go. I bet you didn't know something about field lines. What were you talking
A
about on that
drain
one?
field. I bet you
Drain
didn't
field.
know if you don't meet the requirements for FHA for the distance for the drain field, you can get an exception. You have to put in for an exception. And there are some, and you know, when you're
Hey, hold
talking
on, hold on,
to
hold on,
the
hold on. I
agencies.
was I was talking to my friend Vicky, she create loan officer, and she said when Allison said that she was speaking my language because we got drain fields and wells and septics and
Yeah, we don't have that in Michigan, but they're everywhere. But yes, you can ask for an exception. And the other thing that I would say when you're talking to the agencies, you
yeah,
have to ask,
yeah.
is there any exceptions to that policy? Right?
Ooh,
Are there any they're not gonna give that to you, right?
yeah,
They're not gonna
yeah.
say, but hey, if you do this, like I would ask, is there any exceptions or waivers to this
Great advice.
scenario?
Oh,
Right?
great advice.
So
Yeah. So good. Okay, one more. You got another one? Hey, listen, I'm sensing we're gonna have to do this monthly. Like I bet you didn't know. So okay, give me one more. You got one more?
Well, I'm sure people do this now. I bet you didn't know there is a difference between DU and LP. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac.
Hey,
There
but you
are,
talked about this and I
yes,
think a lot of people know there's differences, but you said something the other day and I
higher
thought,
DTI,
there
less
you go.
restriction on um tax returns for self-employed.
You can do 1 year
We
instead of two, right?
Yep, as long as you
Yeah.
have years in the business doing that business. But the other thing I would say is sometimes we'll get property inspection waivers on Freddie and not on Fannie. So
Mm,
we do run both,
yeah,
really, if we run into an issue, if it's a refer, whatever it might be, we always automatically go to LP.
I
And
love it.
it's just the mindset, like what can we do to make this deal work? And I think that's why we close more loans. That's why we can turn over other companies' denials because we sit and do the work. We'll call FHA 18 times to get a condo approved. I mean, we will do the work, the
Yeah,
legwork.
yeah,
And the guidelines are what they are, right? You
yeah.
cannot overturn a guideline, but there are ways to make deals work within the guidelines if you put in the elbow grease to get the
Mm,
documentation,
mhm,
to paint the picture of the scenario, to make the phone calls to the agency, to try to structure it. Because honestly, it is easier to say no, but that's not our motto. Our motto is to start with a yes. Now, how can I get it closed? And I
mm.
think that's why we close so many more loans because that's our mindset. Like if your underwriters always went into the file is making that a yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You're gonna close more loans anyway.
Hmm. Well, hey, and this will wrap us up for but Allison, even as you just said that, I remember, so I'm 23 years in the business, and I can remember being taught it's an underwriter's job to say no. You've got to show them the yes. And that's literally the way we were trained. It's like, hey, it's my job to show you the yes, but underwriters are, and here's exactly what the way we used to communicate it. Underwriters are gatekeepers. And I'm like, oh, this is so refreshing. Like, you're not a gatekeeper. We're all, I mean, I know it's a gatekeeper, and that the whole point of it was gatekeeper to quality and production and make sure there aren't delinquencies, defaults, and things like that. But there's such a shift. It's just, no, we're all looking for yeses. Of course, we're protecting the asset. Of course, we're
Of
protecting the
course.
company, but it's not, I've got to now convince you, and it's my job and obligation. And so it's so refreshing. Hey, and I'm sensing a monthly podcast with us here. And you know what? And that's what we'll tease, because I'd love to do this where you just say, I bet, and we'll just start right into it. I bet you didn't know. So
Yeah.
much fun. Okay. Hey, give us some closing thoughts.
You know, one thing I would just say is if your ops team, if you're not having a committee meeting where other people are looking at files collectively to find the yes, your company should be doing that. They're not calling the agencies. Make sure they're doing that. And make sure you're on the phone too, so that you
Yes.
can hear those conversations. Those
Yeah.
are some easy wins that you can do in your organization. And having the underwriter call the loan officer, the loan partner, once they did the conditional approval to walk through that file. Because a loan partner might say, oh, I had those bank statements in there. Why didn't they work? Or whatever it might be. And then they can talk about the file right there, right when it gets sent over, you
Yeah.
know? So I think that makes a huge difference and that will help those loans go through the system quicker.
I love it. Well, Allison, thank you. It's so grateful and honored to be on the journey with you. You're remarkable, and your leadership makes it easy for our teams to go get even more loans. So thank you for being here.
Thanks so much.
So powerful when your culture is, I would just encourage everybody with this. The greatest, I think, the greatest accelerant this year is going to be aligning operations with your sales, because when the sales team has the confidence to go sell, and the operations team is really working hard to turn every deal into a yes, you're going to see even more profitability, even more loans close. So hey, here's what I'd love to do. That's Allison. She's a part of, well, she runs operations for Success Mortgage Partners. I lead a group at Success Mortgage Partners called The Network. And if you're listening today and you say, hey, I got a great team, a great group, it's all working, but I'd love to go deeper on how to get more operational excellence, book a call with me. Resultswithsteve.com. Resultswithsteve.com. And for many of you, you're in a good spot. But if there are those of you who say, you know what, I keep banging my head up against a wall. I'm struggling with operational excellence. I feel like I'm in a raft trying to literally row upstream. I want to invite you to this. Jump on the call for a different reason. Let me show you what we're doing inside of the network at Success Mortgage Partners, because it is amazing when you partner with people with similar vision, values, beliefs. Operationally, it's finding the yes. Operationally, there's communication. Operationally, they understand that it's not everything goes to the loan officer or the branch manager, but the more we can lift off of the sales team, the more the sales team can focus on the money making, high payoff activities and have a lot of fun doing it. And so if you'd love to take a look inside of the network, book a call, resultswithsteve.com, resultswithsteve.com. So whether you're in a good culture or maybe you're saying, hey, I'd be open to seeing what you guys do, go to resultswithsteve.com. There's 15-minute calendar. It's literally my personal calendar, every time slot available for that week. And so just jump on it. Would love to talk to you more. Maybe it's a good fit, maybe not. If it's, maybe I could just give you some guidance on how to realign operational and sales culture. Grateful to be on the journey with you. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring Allison back every probably third every third week of the month, and we'll just jump in straight into the I bet you didn't knows, which will be a ton of fun because I think when you start hearing some of the ways maybe you can turn some no's into yeses, it'll be very strategic, help you make more money, and make more partners happy because you're not saying no but saying yes to deals. All right, see you on the inside. See you.